Maybach music.
Welcome back to another episode of Everyman Movie Critic, where we try to bring the love of movies back to you. And as always, it's me, Johnny B, and...
I'm Scott.
Still got to work on that. So this week's episode, we're going to cover video game movies. Do they really work? So we're going to mention a few that were good, a few that were bad, some in between, because there has been some hits and misses. Don't you agree?
Yeah, there's been some good ones and some bad ones. As far as hits go, you can't really say by what they did in the box office. It's more like what a movie is and what it isn't.
What the fans like, because again, my theory on here is that the fans are very disconnected with the critics most of the time, and what's considered a commercial success might not always be a fan favorite of the actual video game, and there's some examples of those, which we'll get into. This might be a two-part video. We're going to focus on this one, all the bad ones out there. And I mean, most notably is going to be, everybody says this, is Super Mario Brothers. I happen to like the movie because now it's considered a cult favorite. I thought it was good for what it was. Yes, they did change way too many things about the game, like the Goombas, I think they're called.
Yeah.
They ended up being these giant creatures with these tiny heads instead of these giant heads with these tiny feet. So I thought that was kind of weird how they decided to do that. But it's a product of its time, too, because back then they were making a lot of dystopian type movies in the late 80s, early 90s. And everything had to be a darker tone for some reason. And they even admitted that the directors that were making the movie, the husband and wife team, they were making mostly Max Headroom TV shows back then. That was their big claim to fame. And Max Headroom was a very dystopian future. If you ever watched the TV series that was on Fox, I think, it started out with that Showtime thing where he did music videos, and then it became like a full-blown TV show.
He did a lot of commercials for Pepsi or Coke, one of them, yeah.
Matthew Brewer, his name is. So if you've ever seen that show or if you know anything about it, leave a comment below.
You mean Max Headroom?
Yeah,
he was?
Matt Brewer.
He's on, guest stars quite a bit on a TV show called Magicians. He's funny as heck on that.
Yeah, he was a funny guy. He was in one of the horror movies that we are going to cover someday. He was in Dawn of the Dead remake where it was in the mall. He played that father that was infected with his daughter who had to kill him.
Okay.
Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Dawn of the Dead, the remake that took place in, it was around 2008. Zack Snyder. Yeah. That was one of his first movies.
He's comparing him to Max Headroom to what he looks like, it's like weird.
I know, they really did a good job making him look like.
He's one of the guys, though, that you look at him on TV, and you're like, I think I know him, but where? And then you look him up, and he's Max Headroom.
See, this is all the more reason why we got to do another example of TV shows crossing over with our topic. So we definitely are going to work on a TV episode. We actually have a couple categories that we're going to look upon coming up in the next few weeks. All right, so we have Super Mario Brothers. Another bad one that people consider bad that I still liked was Double Dragon. And that was with Alyssa Milano when she was in her heyday of her peak of celebrity back then in the 90s. And you have that guy, Mark Dacascos, who's in like every martial arts movie.
Alyssa Milano's from back when not Saved by the Bell, but what?
Speak
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Can you hear him? Guys, leave a comment below. I think I can't hear him when I'm watching these back. But if you need Scott to speak up, let me know.
Anyway, Alyssa Milano, that was when she was with, what was it, Tony Danza with,
Who's the Boss?
Who's the Boss?
Another TV show that we're going to have to cross into.
She was one of the girls that had this 900 number that you could call and spend all your money on. Listen to her give you advice.
They had a lot of those back then.
Oh, yeah.
Joey Lawrence had one. Pretty much if you were ever a popular celebrity back then, you had your own 900 number. Or it was like an 800 number or something.
It was a 900 number or something.
Because that's always been associated with naughty things.
Yeah.
I remember New Kids on the Block had one. You just call up and say, "Hi, we're the New Kids on the Block." And everybody thought it got all excited. "Oh, that'll be $25, please." Click. But anyway, yeah, so Double Dragon, that had...
I didn't mind that movie.
And then what's his name? From Party of Five. He was in it too.
Matthew Fox?
No, one of the younger
Scott
kids.
Wolf?
Scott Wolf. He was in Go. Remember that movie Go? We worked at the movie theater.
No, yeah.
Scott Wolf, Mark Dacascos, Alyssa Milano. It had a good cast, and
Scott Wolf is on Nancy Drew now.
they kind of kept with the video game. Again, like Super Mario Brothers, they took liberties with the characters. They made Linda like this evil woman that was chasing them. They made that Bobo, I think his name was. He had like that. Remember, he took the thing and his head became giant.
Double Dragon, I think, was a lot better than Super Mario.
And then again, it was another dystopian future.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name from T2? The bad guy from T2 was the bad guy in Double
that
Dragon.
guy that like changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's his name? Guys, leave a comment below. I can't remember his name. He was on Blood, that HBO show, True Blood, and he's been in a lot of movies. Anyway, he was also on that other CBS show about those geniuses that were like MacGyver. There was like a Scorpion. He was in that.
Okay.
I can't think of his name. I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, watch. I'll remember it later like I did last time, and I'll smack myself. And guys, should I smack myself so I can remember people's names or just write them down? I really should. Alright, so Double Dragon. One of the movies that I actually ended up liking, and that starred The Rock, because he pretty much was trying to just get away from that wrestling mold. He did Doom, which was based on the video game. And again, they took liberties, and a lot of people said that they wished that the whole movie was like the last 10 minutes where it was in first person. You can't do that, though. You have to tell a story.
I didn't like that movie, and if it was all in first person, I would have hated it even more.
The best thing about that movie is that it was a hard R, at least. They stayed true to the horror of that game.
Yeah,
if they made it PG-13, it would have been crap.
It's just, I don't like the game.
Carl Urban.
I don't like the game either. For me, playing the game, I was like, I had to play it on cheat mode.
Don't tell my son that.
And just running around and getting lost and all kinds of stuff. I'm not a big first person.
I played it when it was still in college, when everybody had those servers that you could get on and play everybody on your computer.
Well, that's
the 8-bit technology that they had for that back then.
That's why you had to put it on cheat mode, and you put it on like your God mode, so you could run around and
cheat,
not die. And but then I'd still get stuck someplace. I'd be in a corner and get stuck, and I don't know where I was.
That's you and everybody else back then.
But The Rock did what he did in that movie, but it could have been anybody, and it still would have been a bad
And Carl
movie.
Urban did a good job. He played a good. He's always good at doing action. Carl Urban, I love him. He could do anything. He was in this new franchise of the Star Trek movies as Dr. Bones. So he can do both. He can do comedy. He can do pretty much anything he wants. Now the next two that we're going to talk about was actually directed by this guy named Uwe Boll. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And what he does, he's infamous for this. He takes a video game that people love, and he makes a bastardized version of a movie out of it. Now, for the example of Blood Rain, and this is fact, I'm glad you think that, because the writer of it, he took her first draft, no rewrites, no nothing, and used that to make his movie. And a lot of people had a big problem with that, even the writer. She distanced herself from the movie. She said, "What is going on with this crap? I did not want this. This is just my first draft." And he just bought the script and ran with it.
Sometimes your first idea is your best idea.
Yeah, not in this case, because...
Well, that movie was...
Well, this one we'll have to disagree on, because I didn't enjoy it. There was one scene I did like, but
Yeah, a
I'm
local
not gonna
girl
get into
from where we're from, honey.
Christiana Locaine, yeah, she is from this area. She was in Terminator 3 also.
And that's probably one of the best video game movies I've seen, honestly. And all the sequels to it were really good. Even though...
Are you going to live by that?
Yes, I live by that. One of the best ones I've seen. The characters seemed great in it. They all were pretty good acting. Everything for that was just as good. And you saying the next movie too.
Alone in the Dark. That was with Christian Slater. That was another one from Uwe Boll, who, again, the movie took a lot of liberties from the video game, and it was a hot mess. I remember seeing it in the theater, and I'm like, I didn't even understand the ending.
And the ending
it just kind of ended.
The ending was weird, but the rest of the movie
They go
was
up
great.
some ladder, open the thing, and it's daytime, and the movie's over.
Yeah, they're upstairs. They're outside. They escaped from where they were, and then it's just like something looked like something came from behind them, and just like, and I don't know what happened. And it looked like they needed another part to that, another movie. Just like Blood Rain had 3 sequels.
Yeah, direct to video.
It doesn't matter, direct to video or movies that are not direct to video, but movies that are
That's
good.
not what I was saying, but okay. It's all good.
Yeah, but as I said, Blood Rain, every movie that I watched from that was pretty good. I mean, she was a much better. The original one was much better than the other two because she was a much better actor than the other two were.
Well, Christiana Loken was not known for her acting ability.
She's a good actor. She's known for swimming ability, actually.
All right,
and she did do that in there.
Let's get up to this
Christian
next
Slater's
one.
the best.
Yeah, I do like Christian Slater. He was a hot star in the '90s with like Gleaming the Cube, that skateboarding movie, and
Cuffs was
Broken
my favorite
Arrow. Cuffs was good. That one where he was a pirated radio DJ. I can't remember the name of that one.
Heathers, don't forget Heathers.
Heathers. Well, he wasn't a star, but yes, he was good in that. He played that emo kid with a lot of issues. All right, so the next movie we're going to discuss, video game movie, is an example of fan casting. And what I mean by that is the fans wanted somebody to play a role, and the studios listened, and that was Van Damme in Street Fighter. And this is actually an interesting movie because it's Raul Julia's last movie he ever made, and he loved every second of it. And it's also another example of how a great actor could be in a crappy movie and elevate those scenes. And another example of that is Frank Langella in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe back in the 80s, which was considered and we're going to get into comic book movies another time and cartoon movies another time, but that's just another example of how a great actor who a lot of people wish they weren't in it because of their caliber of acting, but they are in it and they do elevate their scenes. And Raul Julia definitely was a great Bison, I thought. And that was unfortunately his last movie, and a lot of people were very sad by that.
Bison was very good in that, yeah.
And then you had your who's who in there, you know. And and then you had that Canadian singer that played Cammy.
She wasn't
Kylie Minogue.
She's Australian.
I thought she was Canadian.
Nope, she's Australian.
Guys, is she a Canadian or Australian? Let me know in the comments. I think she's Canadian. He says Australian. Maybe she's an Australian that moved to Canada, so shut up. We can have it both ways. So that had a great cast in it too. Ming-Na Wen really did good. And I like how, at least in that movie, they let the main fighters do their move from the game. Like Honda with the 100 hand slap. No, Cammy did the thing where she jumped on the guy's shoulders and flipped him over.
Yeah, I guess she did.
That's her main. That's like one of her major moves.
But they made her just sit there most of the time.
Well, she probably didn't want to. They had to put the spotlight on Van Damme, and he did his. He learned how to do the flip kick, which he ended up doing in another movie. He did it in The Quest. He ended up doing that same move. I think once he learns how to do a move, he brings it to other movies. E. Honda got to do his 100 hand slap. The one guy finally got to.
Dude.
He got Zangief. Yep. I don't think he did the body crash though.
No, they just like smashed each other through the wall the whole movie.
Oh yeah, where him and E. Honda got to fight, and they kind of did a horrible job of Blanca.
Yeah.
They just kind of.
I didn't like that either.
Throw him in there at the end, and he didn't really get to do anything except for zap somebody, and that was it. And then the other one, Ben Kingsley playing the Dalsim, and they didn't do anything with him either. At least they let everybody see how they would look in the video game in the live action, so that was cool.
Yeah,
all right.
They need to do more with that. They do kind of just like they need to space it out.
Now for another fighting game that became a movie, and they had one sequel, and they're remaking it. That's Mortal Kombat, and that was actually considered a big hit. So I don't know why I had that on the bad one list.
You didn't like Mortal Kombat?
Oh no, it was Mortal Kombat 2, the sequel, where they did have some good things in it because they had like Scorpion and what's his name, Sub-Zero finally fighting, which people wanted. That was another thing that the fans wanted, so the producers put it in there. But the rest of it, like his animality, that was corny. I didn't understand any of that stuff.
That's part of the game.
And they killed off Johnny Cage, and they recasted Johnny Cage, and they recasted Raiden at the same time.
They killed Johnny Cage off in the game too, but then they bring him back.
Yep. I remember that. He was on that hand in the background or whatever in Mortal Kombat 2. But I get why. And they did a lot of recasting in that. The Robin Show was probably the only guy from the original, and Talisa Soto, who played Katana.
Did you ever see the TV show, Mortal Kombat TV show?
The Legend of Kung Lao? Yeah.
And where they
it was all about Kung Lao.
Wasn't there somebody from the movie that was replayed?
It might have been Talisa Soto.
There's somebody, yeah.
Guys, if you remember the TV show and you remember who it is from the movies that was in that, leave a comment below. I don't remember, But I remember the Legend of Kung. It was the Legend of Kung Lao.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about his ancestor Kung Lao, and actually Kung Lao is supposed to be in the new movie. He's gonna be like either a main character or something. Okay, so then we have some famous computer game, Wing Commander, with the awesome duo of Matthew Lillard and Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yes.
And those two like working together. They worked together in Scooby Doo, and they did really well in those. And again, we're gonna do a comic or cartoons turn movie live action.
Matthew Lillard did a great job as Shaggy.
Yeah, he was, and he was the one who kept doing the voice afterwards in some of the cartoons.
Yeah.
Because he was Shaggy. I mean, come on, he was even in Scream.
He worked hard. He worked hard to do that, and he deserves to do what he's doing with it.
I agree. But again, that was one of those movies that tanked, and some of the fans.
I thought that was good too.
But people who liked the video game weren't a big fan of it, and that's another thing. Like, now one movie that actually did really well in the box office, and it made like 5 sequels, and that's the Resident Evil series. But from what I hear, people who like my stepbrother, who liked the games, hated the movies because they added Alice as the main character instead of making it like Claire or Jill or Chris
my favorite.
or somebody, in which they put him in the movies as a side character, but they weren't the focus, and people were true fans of the video game didn't like that because of it.
I agree with that. That's kind of like going with a X-Men type of thing.
My ears deceive me. Did you say you agree with me?
We agree with quite a bit of things, but as far as that goes, yeah, I didn't like Alice. I don't like Alice in it really, but you just gotta take it just like I said with the X-Men. You gotta take them like a grain of salt and pretend that it's something else. Jill Valentine's my favorite. I love playing the games with that.
She was in part 2.
Yep, she was in part 2, and then they
even gave her the blue dress.
Yeah, she looked perfect in that.
With the black.
They repraised her in another movie too, where she was.
I remember Claire being in the rest of them, and then Chris being in the rest of them.
They brought her back in like the third to last one.
No, I think it was the second to last, where they went to all those towns and stuff.
They had like they all came in, like 3 of them came off from there. I think they had like a thing on their chest or something. They were, I don't know, I forgot now. But it didn't look. She didn't look the same, and it wasn't quite the same as that number 2 was. Probably my favorite one with them because of her in it.
Now another fighting game movie that came out back then, or in the early 2000s, was Dead or Alive, and I don't think I've ever seen the whole movie. I've seen trailers for it, and guys in the comments below, let me know what you thought of Dead or Alive. Was it good? If it is, I'll check it out myself.
It wasn't bad at all.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, it did have a bunch of eye candy, and it was like the 3 main girls, and they even did a volleyball scene and everything.
They did that. They did the volleyball
which is straight out of the video game. So it's good when they pay fan service like that.
It's it's basically a fighting movie. Like the ones like Van Damme's movies there, where they go into, well, not just Street Fighter. I'm talking about the ones where they all
go into a tournament.
Yeah, that's what this is. It's
like Mortal Kombat.
Kind of like Tekken.
Oh yeah, that was a video game movie.
Yeah.
Tekken is another fighting game, and I don't think it ever got a full theatrical release. I think it did pretty well on DVD release. And I remember I had to get a bootleg copy of it. I hope the FBI's not listening.
I watched something, yeah.
But I got a copy of it, and it was actually pretty decent. They made Kazuya the main character, or Jin Kazama.
Yeah, I think so.
They made him the main character. Kazuya was played by the same guy who played Shang Tsung in the Mortal Kombat movie. Something Carey, something. I don't even know. Yeah. They did a pretty good job with him, and he had his fight. They had the Law and Paul fight at the beginning of the movie, so that was kind of cool.
Nina.
But then they never did it with Paul. Paul was one of my favorite characters. And Nina was in it. Yeah, she was the assassin. I don't remember much about the movie, but I do remember that they brought a lot of good elements from the video game.
See, I seem to like, for fighting games, I seem to like using a female character better than the males.
And he ain't just whistling Dixie either, guys.
Cammy is my favorite for Street Fighter.
See, I like doing that in like MMOs, like World of Warcraft. I'll make my character a female character because that way guys will come up to you and help you out and do everything for you. Because they can't hear your voice. They call it twinking, I think.
If it was something like that for me, I wouldn't. That'd be the one I'd use the male characters.
Well, they just come up to me and be like, I'd be like, hey, how you doing? And they'd be like, hey, do you need help with this? And I'm like, sure. And they just start giving me, they help me get my armor and money, and here we go. I know you guys like us when we digress, so Enjoy it. All right. So then we have one that was. They made two versions of this. One was called Hitman with Timothy Olyphant, which was mixed review, and then they remade it to Agent 47, I think it was called, a few 8 years later or something, and that was considered a better of the two. I don't know. I haven't seen Agent 47. I do remember seeing Hitman with Timothy Olyphant. I do like him. He was from Scream 2.
I wanted to see it, but
And he was on Justified, that TV show on FX for 7 seasons. So Dead or Alive. One that was actually kind of a success, but not really, was Warcraft. That one had some mixed reviews. Again, they didn't have any of the main characters from the video game, but they kind of, at the end, they hinted toward that if they made a sequel, that one of the main characters, one of the orcs, or whatever, those guys with the tusks, and they had the mage, they had the warrior, they had they had all the elements from the game.
I never really played the game. I watched it. I watched the movie. I liked the movie.
Yeah, it was good.
The way it was made, it looked pretty good. I mean,
the way it was what?
Made.
Oh, I thought you said milked. Is this a cow?
But yeah, they I don't know. You can milk an orc, I guess, if you want.
A female one, I hope.
No.
How can you tell the males from the females, though? I couldn't. Look under their dress.
One's bigger and one's littler, smaller.
No, they were about the same size.
I thought they were smaller.
Look under their skirt.
But
guys, if
yeah,
you ever bump into a male and female orc, good luck.
But yeah, Warcraft. I thought that was a pretty good movie.
Oh, and then another medieval one that you actually liked, and they made two of them, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, the first one with the Wayans brother, he kind of was...
Marlon.
He did not belong in there.
He did kind of stand out, but he was funny, though.
He was funny.
They brought him in for the comic relief.
Yeah, they made the first movie kind of like a comedy thing.
I don't even remember the second one.
It's more of a board game than a
I don't even remember the
They did
second
make
one.
video games with it. The second one was really good. They did take some characters from that movie, the first movie, and brought them in, but for the most part, it was all new people. It was years later. I don't know. The first movie had...
I know I saw it. I just don't remember anything about it.
It was much better. It was much better graphics. It was dragons looked real. Everything looked pretty good compared to that first one. Was more of a comedy. Wayans and whoever the main guy was that was in it, the main thief.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He was a big star back then.
Yeah, him and the girl, the bumbling priestess there. They were both.
I don't remember.
But yeah, they were. I mean, it was a good movie. It wasn't. Wasn't as big of a fan as the first one as I did the second one with that. That's one of the ones that I would say the sequel was much better than the first movie.
Yeah, we're gonna do an episode on that, like which movies out there the sequels are better than the original ones, because there are so many examples of that. I'm not gonna say any of them right now because we'll go off on a tangent and we'll just start recording another video. But
so basically, of the bad movies that he says is bad movies, I would suggest watching Blood Rain. I would definitely watch Dungeons and Dragons, and I would definitely watch Alone in the Dark.
Anything with UV Bowl apparently Scott liked.
Yeah. And if I didn't want it, I would say don't watch Super Mario Brothers, Doom, or
Doom you should watch.
I don't like it.
If you like hard R, The Rock, Carl Urban, straight up action and blood, and no apologetic R rated, then Doom is definitely for you.
And I don't have two really that I wouldn't, if I had to pick ones that I wouldn't say watch, would be Doom and Mario Brothers. As far as House of the Dead and movies like that.
Super Mario is one of those ones that it's worth a watch once because it's one of those movies that are so bad that they almost might be good. Kind of like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but that's for another episode. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up here. We're gonna do a part 2 of this after all, of some of the better ones that were out there, critical successes. Now I know good and bad are subjective anyway, so it's not. So this is just our views on what we thought were good, what were bad. And that's part of what this channel is, just to give you the facts about it. We tell you what we think. It's up to you, guys, to bring the love of movies back. Watch them. So thank you for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't. If you want to see more great content like this episode, hit the like button. He never remembers. Even if you didn't like it, you can still hit the like. It's free. I keep saying that, but it's true. Turn on notifications so you can be notified when our new videos come out. We'll
Maybe
try to
they'd
do
hit
them
it
every
more.
Sunday.
Maybe they
What?
hit it more. I said maybe they would hit it more if it wasn't free.
Maybe we'll do some giveaways sometime. But anyway, all right. So leave a comment below on what you thought of this content. Mention any video games that we missed, and we are gonna have a part 2 coming up on Wednesday. So we will see you then.